Hi, everybody. How are you? Happy New Year, if you celebrate. I know ostensibly everybody celebrates a Happy New Year, but if you're Jewish, our New Year was in September. So it's kind of like Happy Secular New Year. I don't know. Um, but I do use this time. I've used it now at 55. I don't really do resolutions. Maybe that's just like that feels overwhelming. I do a word. I have a word that guides me all year long. And so I thought I would just talk about that today. Specifically, one of my subscribers asked for more of these just like spontaneous talks that I sometimes do, most often on Instagram. Where sometimes I'm like sorting my closet, talking or whatever, which I couldn't believe anyone liked that. Honestly, I'm like, really? Wow, I'm honored. But I wanted to do that for her, so that's what this is. Um, and so the word I had for this year, last year's word was, actually, I think it was two, get curious. It was curious. The word that I had for this year is non-toxic, and I went back and forth on it because it's like, I didn't know how empowering it would be to start a year on a theme that's non, like, yeah, starting with non is not necessarily as empowering as with an action like get curious. Um, Non-toxic, the absence of toxicity. But I had to go with my gut, and that's what is really speaking to me. That's an area in particular where I think I have stumbled, if I'm being honest. And I'm gonna give you an example of what I mean because I have an example as recently as today. Do you hear the creaking sound of cats constantly trying to get in my door? Um, just an aside. Non-toxic. So, like, earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday. Yeah, it must have been yesterday. Yesterday, I saw this email, where, this newsletter that I was reading, where this is someone's newsletter that I think, like, they have a lot of style and fashion knowledge, and I enjoy a lot of their inspiring visuals, and I trust their taste, but I do find that sometimes they are judgmental and snobby, and I don't know that anyone else would think that. I don't know if sometimes I overreact, it's very possible, but there's this, like, s a security in their point of view that to me goes beyond, like, confidence and commanding, which is my friend Asta's one of her defining words is commanding, and I always think she comes across as commanding but also she's always open, you know? She doesn't come across as so decisive, and I think maybe it relates to this past year of curiosity um, where, I'm looking for others to be curious too, and to be so decisive about what you 100% know is really a trigger for me, like, to be so sure and non-curious in areas that are personal, like style, I'm not even gonna say it's a trigger, I because a trigger suggests that it goes at some deeper core thing. I'm not sure that it does. I just can't imagine why anyone it's obviously very different, but to me, it's the equivalent of when I'm posting something on Instagram, it's an outfit or changing outfits, and someone writes, "No." And I'm just like, "Yeah, okay, that's very rude, but in addition to being very rude, what do you mean no? It's not a yes or no question, like, where you have an answer key." Do you know what I mean? It's personal. I don't believe that there's good and bad. I believe there's what you like when it comes to this. Do you know what I mean? It's not like baking, it's not scientific. It's not like the souffle won't lift or whatever the right words are. So I don't like that. And I think that this person is akin to writing no. Like they're just like, this is the way. They're so like, this is bad, bad style. I saw so much bad style at da 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 da. I saw, whatever. And so I've always sort of read that person's stuff with like this little bit of like I want to read it, I don't, I want to look, I don't. I love the imagery, like I said, but that stuff really bothers me. And the other day, the newsletter was like talking about how newsletters have become too transactional and everything is about, selling stuff. And in that same, and this person sell stuff. So, they do a lot of other things too, but they do have a business selling things. And in that same newsletter where they were talking about how newsletters became so transactional, they said, "Oh, by the way, if you're thinking about buying the such and such, you should do it now before prices go up." And that really got to me. I have this thing against, like, that kind of hypocrisy and no self-awareness. Like, if they had said, "Oh, by the way, I know I'm being a total hypocrite, but da 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 da," at least a little self-awareness, um, it would have been better. It's just that, like, "Wait, what? Is anyone else watching? Is anyone else seeing this?" And when I get like that, I want to alert the media. Like, I want to alert the world. "Wait, look, hypocrisy," right? And so my first thought was I put a note in the notes section, and I was like, I don't know how I worded it, but I was like, "Da da 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 in the same email, blah 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 blah," in the same newsletter, like, you know, um, quote, "Newsletters are being so transactional." Same newsletter, quote, "Don't forget to buy such and such." And then I deleted it because this was day 1 of my new year of being non-toxic. And for me, citing that without, even without obviously naming the person that the email has a bitter metallic taste in my mouth. It's toxic. And I understand that it's not, and I'm not, I understand that it's not this horrible thing. I'm not like indicting myself that it's a horrible thing, but it's a needless toxicity where what I should do and did ultimately is decide to unfollow that person because there's so much to look at on all fronts. There's so much to look at and read. And if this is getting me to where, I find it annoying, I shouldn't read things that I find annoying because I don't have that kind of time. It's not, I don't need to go out there and express my point of view out loud for my point of view to exist. And it's strange to me how the second I did it, I felt this weird taste in my mouth, like eating pennies, like metal tangy. And that's it. I haven't always been able to recognize when I engage in something toxic until very late after the fact. And while it's disappointing to me that I declared it a year of non toxic and on day 1 I was toxic, I engaged in toxicity, what I deemed toxicity. I'm so glad that I tasted it, felt it, and deleted it. I thought that was a good practice exercise. Um, and so for me, that's one thing is that I don't want to engage in toxicity. When I taste that, I want to stop myself before I have to taste that, ideally, and just disengage. Um, and the other piece is I don't want to engage with toxic people. And, I know who they are. There's just people sometimes that I'm like, oh, you're dangerous. Like you're not making sense. You're not really nice. Um, There's, like I get a danger, like electricity about this person, and sometimes it's through a newsletter. There's, like, a newsletter and a series of notes, and there's something about that ignites that danger piece of that danger radar, and I'm like, "Oh, this is not good." So I am going to disengage from those people. And I think the thing that's on the other side of that is FOMO. Like you definitely have that FOMO, like, wait, what if I don't read this big important newsletter about, this fashion thing or sales or, and I miss something. And it's like, if you, I mean, everything goes around, people do the cliff notes of those things. You always get them, like you'll get different like summaries of those things, my friend Liz in Bad Influence, she'll do a lot of like things that have been going around them. Important things, like she'll kind of cliff note them for you. I think Anna Newton will kind of talk about all the most relevant things she's heard. Grace Atwood, I think, will. So I don't think you actually miss anything. I think all these good people who are non-toxic will show you all the things that you need to see, and you're not gonna miss anything. I'm not gonna let FOMO get in the way of my removing myself from toxic people in print or in real life. Um, you know, same with I've engaged with people, like, on Instagram, I've gotten in the mud and engaged, and I just think when you do that, you're too in the toxic swill of it all. It doesn't make me happy. It makes me feel gross, like I ate too much candy, and, like, I'm eating that tin, and I don't like that feeling, so I just don't wanna engage in that. Um and I do think, some of the other themes that I've had for various years fall in that rubric of toxicity. Judgment was I think the first time I did a theme, it was about being non-judgmental. Um, yeah, and so I think that toxic has a guiding principle. Um, yeah, so one of you says, it depends on the subject matter whether you'll engage, like if there's something blatantly a lie, like if Trump says Mexicans are rapists, um, you need to engage. Um, I get that, but also, I have engaged and I'm not it doesn't make me feel like I'm being effective. I would have to think of a way, that says to me that I have to keep being active politically. I have to donate to places that I think are effective. Um, and I have to do what I have to do, and I have to surround myself with people who I think are at least open-minded, like if I'm talking, I'm not going to sway a MAGA Republican by doing something like that. So in the end, I just think that it's embroiling me in more toxicity and without a rule, without an effect, without a positive effect. I want to take that instead. And I don't disparage anyone's choice to do that. I'm just telling you where I've resolved and what makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing. Instead of taking that as a signal to engage, I'm going to take that as a signal to double down whatever I'm doing with donations, with actions. Maybe I'm going to take that maybe I will post something of my own on my Instagram where, yeah, okay. She said that's what I mean when I say engage, not writing back to them and getting all into it in the comment sections. Yes. Yeah, I might write my own content, where I'm drafting the message. But what I don't want to do is get in there in the mud with people who are making arguments that are, really untenable and superficial and where there's no purpose for my acting. Like where can I drive my time to be better spent? And I have, because sometimes, these things are so inciting. You will read something, it's so inciting, I go like blackout rage. Like I'm blacked out and I'm writing back. I'm writing something and it's just like in a blackout rage. Sometimes also, like I honestly forget that anyone's reading any of the things that I'm doing. So sometimes I'm like saying things in my Substack. I think of it as a small group, like the paying subscribers, I kind of think of it as, but it's not a small group. And I've said things s that without identifying the person that I know got back to the person and they knew that I was meant them, you know? And I don't wanna do that. I wanna find different tools to stand for what I stand for than that. Um, yeah. Um, so I say this and, there's some things that I've done in particular over the past year. There's two things that stand out to me where I really engage in something toxic and it can't be undone. It's like if I were to go back and try to undo it and like I can't apologize. Look at the way this cat is lovingly looking at me. Thank you, monkey. If I were to go back, I can't apologize for that thing. Like um, yeah, it would only make it worse, and it would only call more attention. It would hurt that person more by bringing it up again. 2 things like that, and I still think about them. I think about them a lot, like, I think about those things, and I did not do well by myself and my values, and, um, yeah, they weren't good, and I wish that I hadn't, and I think especially because I can't go back and fix that, I can do better and make a whole year and yeah, do better. I think the thing that makes things feel better is to do better. Um, I think a lot back to something I've said before, but one of my friends who was formerly my boss, and I would get outraged about something like, "This is such bullshit. This person who, like, she just copied an idea. She, like, plagiarized something, and now that's gonna be da 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 da, and this one and that one and whatever." And she'd be like, "The cream always rises to the top." And that's just, like, where I wanna be. Even though it doesn't always bear itself out. Like, sometimes I get so annoyed, something that will get me really annoyed is, like, someone taking someone else's Substack and basically just without acknowledging their idea, changing a word of their idea and regurgitating their idea without talking about it as, like, part of the same conversation. That will get me, like, furious. But what my friend would say is the cream rises to the top. Like, if you can't come up with your own ideas, you're gonna run out of ideas. And I sometimes feel like the cream won't rise to the top, that Substack is not always a meritocracy, and that people seem accepting of things that are regurgitations. That's not the most important thing to people. It might be a very important thing to me, but it's not the most important thing to everyone. It's like the cream will rise to the top, and if it doesn't, so what? You know? It's like, I gotta do me. I have to come up with my own original ideas that's important to me, and that's a value that I wanna give. But that doesn't make it a value that everyone wants to give or to receive, and it's up to everyone else what substacks they value, and it's up to writers what they think is important to provide. Um, so I wanna just, let it go. I don't wanna swallow that toxicity. I don't need to, like, right all the wrongs. I don't need to and I don't know. By the way, if no one but me values that piece, why is it valuable, you know? Why does what I think dominate over what a meritocracy decides rises to the top. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's not a meritocracy, even if, um, who cares? Like, just keep doing me, find my audience, find my people, love my people, give to my people, give them what I think is valuable. I know there are more people like me who want what I want, who do think that's really important, that piece about originality, who do think, um, regular content is important, who do think, crediting people is important, who do think, wearing the clothes versus just showing the clothes is important, who do think authenticity is really important. But that doesn't make those values better than any other values? So I don't want to start getting in there toxically asserting what's important, you know? I want to just stop eating pennies. I want to just calm down, you know, and eat salads. Um, Yeah. Um, thank you. Yeah, so that's it. So I'm very glad to say this out loud to you because I think it will really help me hold myself accountable. And thank you for the kind words, Deborah, and thank you for being here, everyone. Both right now and in general. The group of people that are in our space at Hey Mrs. Solomon are like incredibly kind, and that is something great in and of itself. Maybe the cream rising to the top means you, not me or what I put out there. Maybe it's just that by putting out there things that meet my values, I've drawn in a group of people that are the cream rising to the top, kindness, and that I can count on to be, listeners, to be willing to change your minds, to be warm and open to each other, to be forgiving, to be engaged, to be, to value originality and ideas. Yeah, and I'm really lucky for that. And maybe that's it.